Hi, I'm John Stevenson. We're going to be looking at the Proverbs of Solomon in our continuing study through the poetic books of the Old Testament. 1 Kings chapter 4, verses 30 and following tell us about how Solomon's wisdom surpassed the wisdom of all the sons of the east and all the wisdom of Egypt, which tells me that the wisdom of Egypt was known for being a wise place. And then it goes on to say, for he was wiser than all men. And we have a number of wise men mentioned, Ethan the Ezrahite, Heman, Calcol, and Darda, the sons of Mahol, and his fame was known in all the surrounding nations. He also spoke 3,000 proverbs, and his songs were 1,005. Now that brings us to our outline of Proverbs. We mentioned that earlier, that we start with an appeal to wisdom, and then there's a series of one-verse maxims starting in chapter 10. It starts off, these are the Proverbs of Solomon, and then chapters 25 and following are the Proverbs that are collected by the men of Hezekiah, and finally chapter 30 we have the words of Agur, and 31 we have the words of King Lemuel. But when we have the Proverbs of Solomon, that's chapters 10 through 24, it has been noted that there are 375 Proverbs in that section. And that number is going to be significant. You see, in Hebrew, they didn't have the Arabic numerals that we do when we write, just the numbers 1, 2, 3 without spelling it out. And so what they would use is their letters had numerical value. And, we can sort of do this thing when you were a little kid. Maybe you played a game and you had a secret code where A represented 1 and B represented 2. And you could figure it out. But they didn't have to figure it out because this is the way they used it all the time. So these numbers would jump out at them with numerical value. And the name Sholomo, which is how they said Solomon, it has numerical value. So the Shin and the Lamech and the Mem and the He, all when you add them together, it approaches that number 375. The exact number of proverbs that we have in that section that is referenced to Solomon. I think the writers are playing with us a little bit in sort of a cute game. There's no hidden meaning here. It's just a nice way to package the Proverbs of Solomon. So, chapter 10, verse 1, the Proverbs of Solomon, and here we begin into the first proverb, a wise son makes the father glad, but a foolish son is a grief to his mother. Stop, ponder that, think about it. Wisdom and foolishness not only affect you, they affect your parents as well. Now we go on, verse 2, ill-gotten gains do not profit, but righteousness delivers from death. And then verse 3, a new proverb, the Lord will not allow the righteous to hunger, but he will reject the craving of the wicked. And then verse 4, poor is he who works with a negligent hand, but the hand of the diligent makes rich. Now, all three of those proverbs, verse 2, verse 3, verse 4, are standalone, and yet they're connected by a common theme. And so what is the common theme? Ill-gotten gains do not profit, but righteousness delivers from death. How is that similar to verse 3 and to verse 4? In each one of these, there's a finance theme. There's a work theme that's involved there, where where the one who works with a negligent hand, he ends up poor. But the one who is diligent, he ends up with more money because he's worked at it. And so there's something to be said in each one of these about work and the results, the gain, the profit from that work. The same theme goes on to the next verse. He who gathers in summer is a son who acts wisely, but he who sleeps in harvest is a son who acts shamefully. And so the point is being made that skilled work brings success and diligent work brings success. Here's another one, Proverbs chapter 10, verse 26. Now, I had those that were chained up. I'm just jumping down later on in this chapter. Like vinegar to the teeth and smoke to the eyes, so is the lazy one to those who send him. So notice this proverb isn't so much about the lazy person himself, what he's going to go through, but the one who has to have a lazy person working for him. Nothing worse as an employer than to have somebody working for you that's lazy. Like vinegar to the teeth, smoke to the eyes. Those are not pleasant experiences. Verse 29, do you see a man skilled in his work? Now this is Proverbs 22:29. Do you see a man skilled in his work? He will stand before kings. He will not stand before obscure men. Skill has a tendency to eventually be known. It brings success. Skilled work brings success. As we also saw, diligent work. And so diligence and skill don't have to go together, but when they go together, it can be wondrous. Proverbs 6, now this isn't a Proverb of Solomon. I'm actually going back on that diligent theme, back to Proverbs chapter 6, and I have several proverbs that are again linked together. Go to the ant, O sluggard. Observe her ways and be wise, which having no chief, officer, or ruler prepares her food in the summer and gathers her provision in the harvest. He goes on to say, the next few verses, how long will you lie down, O sluggard? Sluggard, that's that lazy person. When will you arise from your sleep? And now the proverb itself, and it's actually quoting, sounds like it's quoting something that's already been around. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest. Your poverty will come in like a vagabond, and your need like an armed man. If you don't work, then it's going to lead to poverty. And that's going to come in like somebody who's poor and who's looking to, for a handout. And your need like an armed man, picturing someone who is coming in to rob you, but you've robbed yourself. Proverbs chapter 15, verse 19. The way of the lazy is as a hedge of thorns, but the path of the upright is a highway. Remember many years ago, I was out on a hike with my daughter, and I think we had maybe a nephew with us, up in the mountains of North Carolina, and we were going along the path, and it was a pretty good path, but it was going parallel to the direction we actually wanted to go. So we thought we'd try to take a shortcut, and there were thorns along the way. And after 15, 20 minutes of working our way through those thorns, we just said, well, let's go back to the straight path. That was so much easier. The way of the lazy is as a hedge of thorns. It's hard to be lazy because your laziness gets in the way of life. But the path of the upright is a highway. Proverbs 11, verse 1. A false balance is an abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. Notice that there is an ethical quality to the Proverbs. Not only the Proverbs telling you what is wise, they are also telling you what is good. That term, a just weight, be'eben shalomah, we could literally say a stone of peace is his delight. But it's the idea that you're making peace with somebody, you're not trying to cheat them. So just weight actually works quite well. Proverbs 14:29 through 30. He who is slow to anger has great understanding, but he who is quick-tempered exalts folly. Being slow to anger, that's a good thing. Quick-tempered is a bad thing. And then verse 30 continues that sort of idea. So these two proverbs are linked. A tranquil heart is life to the body, but passion is rottenness to the bones. And of course, that's talking about a bad passion, the passion of being bad-tempered or quick-tempered, and that can be a terrible thing. Stress isn't good for you. Proverbs 15, verses 16 through 17. Blessed is the little with the fear of the Lord, then great treasure and turmoil with it. Notice again, better is a dish of vegetables where love is than a fatted ox served with hatred. So we have a better theme followed by a better theme. Better is one thing, better is the fear of the Lord, than great treasure if there's turmoil there. Better is a dish of vegetables, in other words, that was sort of a lower class meal, than a fattened ox served with hatred. Depends what goes with it. Love is better than hate. Now, in summing up our short look at the Proverbs, Jesus talked about how the Queen of the South will rise up with this generation at the judgment and condemn it because she came from the ends of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon, and behold, something greater than Solomon is here. That reminds us that when we come to look at wisdom, that the greatest wisdom is the one who God sent to die in our place. The wisdom of the cross, which the world sees as foolishness, and yet it is our delight because it is the source of our life.